Hey, it's Sarah with House Copper. Today I'm just gonna do something really short, and it is on putting a rim band on a lid, which is a style from the 17 and early 1800s. But I'm gonna be putting a rim band on a lid, but the lid is one of those big pieces, and I know I've shown the big pieces and doing some of like the double bottoming and things on here, but when you're doing a really big diameter of something, it can give you a lot of grief. It gets out of round really quickly. It's really unwieldy. And because you're not doing pieces that big all the time, you usually don't have the setup for them. I know I don't. I know Bob usually doesn't. It takes, 3.5 hands to do some of these projects. But I'm dealing with a rim band. It fits. But because it's so big, what happens is if you've got a piece like this big and you're putting a rim band and doing a crimp seam, which you'll see, while you're setting down with your setting down hammer on one side, the other side can constantly pop out. And even if you're, doing angle, pieces all along, it's pulling on itself. So there's a trick to this, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So without further ado, we are going to put a rim band on a really big piece. Okay, here's the piece. It's massive, like it's huge. And it's unwieldy a little bit. As you can tell, it even doesn't sit flat very well after the burring, though it will eventually sit flat. But I am doing a crimp seam on the bottom. And if you don't know what a crimp seam is, I have videos on how to do a crimp seam, but it's essentially putting two right angles opposite each other and then hammering them down. So over here, let's see if you can see. This rim band here has a 90-degree angle along the base for the burr. This lid has been burred up 90 degrees. I need to hammer, which I've done in a couple places to try and get it to stay, and it doesn't, which is why I'm doing this method, and I thought I'd show you. But over here, it's been hammered flat. So the two burrs are now smushed together. However, if I want to do anything on the other side, this side's gonna pop out. So we're gonna do a little trick, and that is to pre-solder only part of your seam before you finish hammering out the rest. While you're doing that, you also are gonna have to protect any lap seams, like I have here, from coming apart, or else your entire rest of your rim band is going to fly off of this piece. So if you ever have a wonky, rim band that's not staying, even though you know it fits, you can do soldering. You just have to like pre-soldering or like bits and pieces of soldering, which is what we're gonna do. But you do have to be cognizant of some of your other seams. So here we go. So I'm just gonna solder lightly right here, but what I'm gonna do to help myself before I get too far is I'm going to lightly flux the inside here. And I'm also, even though I haven't set this seam down yet with the setting down machine, just to help me, I'm just going to lightly flux right here on the outside of that. It's just going to help me a wee tiny bit in keeping the seam together. And as you can tell, I'm still also holding my lap seams together where the heat's going to be so that they don't pop apart for me. Then I'm also going to start with a little piece of solder. You don't need a lot for this part. You will later when you seal this whole thing again. I'm just going to kind of lay it in the middle on the inside. And I'm going to try and do this with one hand and hope that this doesn't fall into the fire. There she goes. Melting, but it's not running yet because this piece is so big. That's the other thing you are going to deal with. You also can go from the bottom, and that sometimes will help. As you can see, there she goes. All right, so here's where the solder is right there, all along here, all along this seam, which now is no longer gonna pop apart when I work opposite of it. And I will be doing that in increments in order to have a finished seam here, and then this lid will be ready to go once I straighten it out a little bit. Anyway, so there you have how to deal with a little quirk like that. I hope it's helpful to you. If you have any comments or questions or thoughts, please, as always, leave them in the comments below. I love to hear from you and get feedback. It's fun just because this is the kind of trade where everybody learns it a little different or does things a little different. It might be, you know, the light bulb someone else needs. So it's a place of sharing and caring. Anyway, as always, find me at House Copper on Instagram, Facebook, Copper and Clay, anywhere books are sold. Subscribe, tell everybody about the Copper Shop, because you know everybody needs a little copper in their house. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.